You are born in Louisville, Kentucky on January 17, 1942. Your name is Cassius Marcellus Clay, Jr. You're born in the era of racial segregation, Jim Crow laws. Your city is segregated. Your country is segregated. Black people and white people live in separate worlds, separate schools, separate restaurants, separate bathrooms, separate seats on the bus, not by choice, by law. If you are black and you walk into the wrong restaurant, the wrong school, you don't just get asked to leave, you get arrested. Your father paints signs and murals for a living. Your mother cleans houses for white families. You grow up in the west end of Louisville, a black neighborhood on the west side of a divided city. You are just another poor black kid in Louisville, and you have no idea what is coming, but it is coming. The year is 1954. You are 12 years old. Someone steals your bicycle. You are furious. You find a police officer named Joe Martin and tell him you are going to beat up whoever took it. Joe Martin looks at you and says one thing: learn how to fight first. He runs a boxing program at the Columbia Gym. He tells you to come down. You go. You are 12 years old. No experience. No gear. No idea what that place is about to do to your life. You put on the gloves for the first time. 6 weeks later, you have your first fight. You win. You come back the next day, and the day after that, and every single day after that. You are 12 years old in a segregated city with no money and no connections. But inside that gym, none of that matters. Inside that gym, the only thing that matters is what you do with your hands. You are obsessed with it. You are still 12, but the clock has started. Every morning, before school, before the city wakes up, you are already running. The streets of Louisville are empty. You are not. You train 6 days a week, every month, every year. At 14, you win your first Golden Gloves title in Louisville. At 16, you win the National Golden Gloves title. People start showing up to watch you fight. You don't just win. You move differently. You think differently inside that ring. By the time you are 18, you have 2 National Golden Gloves titles and 6 Kentucky Golden Gloves championships. As an amateur, you have already won 100 fights and lost only 5. Your city starts to know your name. You are 18 years old now, and the world is about to see you for the first time. You are selected to represent the United States at the Olympic Games in Rome. You have never been on a plane in your life, and you are terrified. Not of the fights. Never of the fights. Of the plane. You call the United States Air Force and ask them to send you records of every plane crash on the route from the U.S. to Rome. They send the records. You read them. You almost don't go. But Joe Martin, the same man who taught you how to throw a punch, talks you into it. You walk into an Army surplus store. You buy a parachute. You put it on your back. You board the plane wearing it. The entire flight to Rome, you pray out loud. Other passengers stare. You don't care. You land in Rome still wearing the parachute. You fight 5 opponents from 5 different countries. You beat all 5. On September 5th, 1960, you stand on the podium with a gold medal around your neck. You sleep with it that night, and the night after that. You don't take it off for 2 days. You come back to Louisville a hero. Then you walk into a restaurant to eat. They refuse to serve you. Because you are black. You are the Olympic gold medalist of the United States of America. They still say no. You drive to the bridge over the Ohio River. You take the medal off your neck, and you throw it in. It disappears into the water. A gold medal was not enough to buy you a seat at the table in your own country. So you decide to take the whole table. You turn professional. Fight 1. Win. Fight 2. Win. Before each fight, you tell the world exactly what round you will stop your opponent. People laugh. Then the round comes, and you are right. Fight after fight after fight. The press calls you a clown. Too loud, too cocky, too much. You don't stop talking. You don't stop winning. 10 fights, 10 wins. 19 fights, 19 wins. The other fighters study your footwork. They study combinations. They are preparing for a normal fighter. But you are not a normal fighter. You move your head before the punch even leaves their hand. You float around the ring like you already know what they are going to do, and you do. You are still 22 years old, a nobody, still from Louisville, still the son of a sign painter. But there is one fight left that can change everything. His name is Sonny Liston, and the whole world thinks you have no chance. But you do. Sonny Liston is the heavyweight champion of the world. He is an ex-convict. He has destroyed every man put in front of him. The press calls the fight a mismatch, dangerous, irresponsible. February 25th, 1964. Miami Beach. You are 22 years old. You move faster than anyone Liston has ever seen. He can't touch you. He can't find you. By the 6th round, his eye is swollen nearly shut. His face is marked. His left shoulder is torn. He can barely see. He tells the referee his shoulder is gone. The commission waves it off. You are the heavyweight champion of the world. You run around the ring screaming, "I am the greatest." But that is not the headline that shakes the world. 2 days later, you announce you are a member of the Nation of Islam, and then you say it. Cassius Clay is a slave name. I didn't choose it, and I don't want it. My name is Muhammad Ali. You had been waiting for this moment for years. Half the country turns on you overnight. Yesterday, you were their champion. Today, you are their enemy. Now, America is about to find out just how far you are willing to go. You are now 25 years old. You are still the heavyweight champion of the world. The United States is at war in Vietnam. The government sends the draft notice. Your name. Your address. Report for duty. You refuse publicly. In front of everyone. You say, "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong." No Viet Cong ever called me the N-word. The room goes silent. Within 24 hours, every boxing commission in America strips you of your title. Your passport is confiscated. You can't leave the country. You are convicted of draft evasion. The sentence, 5 years in prison. They don't take you to a cell. Not yet. Your lawyers appeal. You are free, but only on paper. You are banned from boxing. No license. No fights. No income. You are at the absolute peak of your career, and they take everything. Your title, your passport, your income, your freedom to fight. But you don't run. You don't apologize. You don't take it back. You stand there, and you take it. 3.5 years without a single fight. No ring, no title, no income. You travel across the country speaking at universities. Students fill the auditoriums to hear you. The country slowly changes. The war becomes unpopular. People start to see what you saw. The Supreme Court of the United States reverses your conviction. You are free. You come back to boxing, but 3.5 years are gone. You are not the same fighter. Your legs are not the same. You fight Joe Frazier at Madison Square Garden. The fight of the century. Both of you undefeated. In the 15th round, Frazier knocks you down. You get back up, but you lose. For the first time in your professional life, you lose. You are already 29 years old, and for the first time, the world wonders if you are finished. October 30th, 1974. George Foreman is the heavyweight champion of the world. He is 25 years old. He has knocked out every single man in front of him. He knocked out Joe Frazier in 2 rounds, twice. You are 32. You have already lost. The world has already written you off. The fight starts. Foreman comes at you with everything. You go to the ropes. You let him punch. Round after round after round. You absorb. You wait. You survive. Then, in the 8th round, you come off the ropes. You hit Foreman with a right hand. He goes down. He does not get up. Knockout. You are the heavyweight champion of the world. Again. At 32 years old, written off, dismissed, done. You are still the greatest. But the greatest fight of your life is still 1 year away. October 1st, 1975, Manila, Philippines. You and Joe Frazier, 3rd and final fight. You're 33 years old. 14 rounds of 2 men destroying each other. Frazier nearly blind, you barely standing. Before the 15th round, Frazier's corner stops the fight. You win. But right after the fight, you say, "It was the closest thing to dying I know of." And you mean it. You come back to your corner and collapse. Your trainer Angelo Dundee looks at your face and understands. This is the fight that breaks something inside you. Not visibly, not immediately, but something shifts. The body remembers everything, and it is already starting to send you the bill. The years after Manila are different. At 36, Leon Spinks, a fighter with barely 8 professional fights, beats you. 7 months later, you beat him back. You become the first man in history to win the heavyweight title 3 times. But the body sends signals. The hands are slower. The words after fights are slower too. Larry Holmes, your former sparring partner, stops you in 11 rounds. Your trainer, Angelo Dundee, throws in the towel. He cannot watch anymore. Trevor Berbick beats you over 10 rounds. After the fight, you say, "I think I'm finished." You are 39 years old. You are finished. One afternoon in Los Angeles, a 21-year-old man climbs to the 9th floor of a building and threatens to jump. The police can't reach him. The crowd below shouts for him to jump. Someone calls Muhammad Ali. You show up. You go upstairs. You sit with him. You talk to him. He comes down. Nobody knows how you did it, and you never say what you told him. But the hardest fight of your life hasn't even started yet. You are 42 years old when the doctors give it a name. Parkinson's syndrome. They say the years of punches absorbed over 2 decades damaged your brain. The tremors start. The voice that once filled arenas that predicted knockouts starts to slow down. The man who was never, ever quiet goes quiet, but you don't disappear. You travel to more than 60 countries as a United Nations messenger of peace. You raise over $127 million for charity. You found the Muhammad Ali Parkinson Center in Phoenix. You sit with heads of state. You visit children in hospitals. You show up. You're already 54 years old. At the Olympic Games in Atlanta, the world watches as someone carries the torch. The hands are shaking. The body is shaking. You hold the flame above your head and light the cauldron in front of the entire world. Nobody in that stadium makes a sound. Then a man from the International Olympic Committee walks toward you. He is holding something. It is a gold medal. A replacement for the one you threw into the Ohio River 36 years ago. You are 63 years old. The Parkinson's is no longer just tremors. Speaking takes effort. Walking takes effort. Everything takes effort. And yet, the President of the United States invites you to the White House. He places the Presidential Medal of Freedom around your neck, the highest civilian honor in the country. The same country that once took your title, your passport, and your freedom to fight, now calls you a hero. You're now 74 years old. The body keeps failing. Hospital visits become more frequent, more serious. You can barely speak. You can barely move. But the eyes are still sharp. The presence still fills the room. On June 3, 2016, your organs begin to fail one by one. Septic shock. Respiratory failure. 32 years of Parkinson's. You are 74 years old. But your heart won't stop. For 30 minutes after everything else shuts down, your heart keeps beating. The doctors stand there and wait. 30 minutes. The heart that carried you through Liston, Foreman, Frazier, Vietnam, exile, and Parkinson's refuses to quit. They bring you home to Louisville, the city that once refused to serve you at a restaurant. Hundreds of thousands of people line the streets to say goodbye. The procession passes the Columbia Gym, where a 12-year-old boy with a stolen bicycle first put on boxing gloves. It all started there. It all comes back there. Rest in peace, Muhammad Ali. You were born with the world against you, and you leave it having changed it. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe for more videos. It helps more than you know. Thanks for watching.